Welcome back to Routine Rundown. I'm Well+Good Senior Beauty Editor Zoë Weiner, and I am here today with nail artist, nail expert, nail queen, Julie Kandelec. You have definitely seen her name on our website, on many other websites, as the creator of some beautiful red carpet manicures. She's everywhere for her work, and it is so exciting to have such a pro on. Hey, Julie.
Hi, Zoe. It's so good to see you, and thanks so much for having me.
Yes, I'm excited to talk nails because I'm going to admit I was not a nail girly until like 6 months ago, and that is something that I want to dive in on with you because I think I'm not the only one. I think people are finding nails in new ways now, and we're gonna chat through why. But Julie, for our listeners who don't know you or who aren't familiar with your work, tell us a little bit about you.
You know, I've been doing nails pretty much my whole life. I started in a salon in Ohio. I moved to New York City 13 years ago to just pursue, doing nails for celebrities. I've worked in salons. I was the founding creative director at Paintbox. I then opened up my own atelier in Manhattan and lots of different things in between, like having a travel blog, and that's how you and I met.
Yep.
And travel and beauty blog, and also just working on set, editorial, backstage at Fashion Week, and just celebrities, of course. So
And editors. I feel like anytime I compliment an editor's manicure, they're like, Julie did it.
I thank Backstage at Fashion Week and Paintbox for getting to know like every single editor in New York, and I love it.
Amazing. So, as I said before, we're in a really interesting time in the land of nails. I feel like there's, a conversation about nails in a way that there wasn't really before. I feel like it was a lot about hair and makeup and skincare, and nails really feels like it's at the top as far as what we're talking about is in beauty trends and healthcare and beauty because of nail health. There's just all these things happening with nails. And I'm curious, I know you've been in the industry for a while. How does this feel? How does this moment feel different than kind of when you started? And how did we get to this nail frenzy we're in right now?
I've been in the industry over 20 years, so I've seen like the full circle, and I've noticed a huge change after, like during the lockdown and then after the lockdown, because people were always looking at their hands, like, we're aware of what our face and our hair looks like, but we're not always looking at it unless we have a mirror. So during lockdown, people are bored. They're looking at their hands. They're like, what can I do? So they started doing their own nails. So that really helped with the resurgence of kind of what's happening with nails right now. And also, a lot of people started doing nails during lockdown because they loved it so much that they started nail school right after that. But also, a lot of people lost their jobs or just, they were laid off and things like that. So they thought, nails is really fun. Why don't I get into nails? So I think that has a huge part to do with why nails are finally, because for so long we were kind of like the stepchild of the beauty industry. You know what I mean? Like the last person called. I can't tell you how many times my agent has called me to be like, can you get there right now? They forgot to book a manicurist. So now I'm being booked way in advance, which is amazing.
I don't think I realized that there were more pros now than there were. That's so interesting. It makes sense.
Yep. Yeah.
Huh.
Yep.
And so in the pandemic, it doesn't feel like it was just, for some people, for me who is inept with a nail brush and has to go get them done. But it isn't just the like typical paint your nails red, paint your nails nude. It feels like we've reached a new era of what nails are and what they can look like, right?
Yeah. There's just such an abundance of things that have come out. Like, the pandemic again has made so many different nail brands. For example, Olive and June, like they started as a salon, and during the pandemic, they really went full force into creating education and product for the at-home DIY nail lover. And so a lot of other companies have started that as well.
Yeah, the press-ons are everywhere, and like the
Press-ons,
decals, all of it.
Decals, like, and it's just easier to get, like with Amazon and things like that. Whereas before you could only go to a beauty supply store. Now, I do have a disclaimer about buying nail supplies on sites or in stores that are not regulated, but that's a whole different topic. So use that with caution if they're not, from a reputable source. But they are much more readily available. So,
and I think there's also, like, in addition to this art there's been so much of an increased focus on nail health too. Like I feel like I always knew that picking off gels was bad, for example, but it wasn't until recently that I've seen a breadth of content on the internet telling me why that's bad and why that's important and where. I mean, do you think that was the pandemic too? How did this kind of moment of nail health happen?
I definitely do, because during the pandemic and after, people are hyper aware of sanitation and disinfection practices that we as nail professionals have always, I mean, that's the first thing, that's day one that we learn in cosmetology school. But now the consumer is much more aware of what we should be doing, and they're not afraid to ask us, how did you disinfect that? How are you cleaning the surfaces? Things like that. They're not afraid to ask, whereas before a pandemic, they were like, oh, I'm sure it's fine, but now they'll ask, no holds barred.
Yeah, so it's like I feel like people have, and we've talked about this. We did a story on site last year, earlier this year, about just kind of like this resurgence of people caring about the surgence of people caring about their hands more, of manicures being more fun. Just like remember during the pandemic when there was that big story that was the manicure is dead, and it's not. It was like the complete opposite
dead.
happened.
Yeah, very much. I mean, after that piece came out, I mean, nail art was everywhere. Everyone wanted it. I mean, it was the people that never had nails done at all, people that had never had nail art, people that would only get an accent nail. They all wanted all of the things. I mean, all the color, all the chrome, all the 3D, all the charms. Every single client of mine wanted nail art.
So it was like, I feel like it was like we came out of this, like, I mean, my nails are bare and awful right now, but came out of like staring at our bare, boring looking hands and wanted to express ourselves, kind of. I know I did.
Absolutely. Yep.
And I feel like manicures as a form of self-expression is so interesting, and I think it's only gotten bigger, kind of as this surgence of nail art and all these different options are out there. I'm curious, how do you approach nails as a form of expression? When you're working on the red carpet, when you're doing editorials, like how do you approach making nails say something?
Well, I look at it as like a punctuation mark. So nails can either be a comma, like maybe it's a really simple, just kind of lip gloss kind of a nail, or maybe it's a period, like a red nail, or maybe it's an exclamation point, like nail art, kind of like I have like a neon marble situation going on right now. Or maybe it's a question mark, like maybe you're doing something that's so out of the box that's not like your typical nail art look. Maybe it's a 3D face of like Beyonce, I don't know. Something that's really out of the box. So I kind of think about it that way, like what's the mood of what my talent is wearing? What's, are we doing Oscars or is this Grammys? Like Oscars is a period with a red nail. Maybe the Grammys is like that question mark with the face of Beyonce on your nail.
But I think what's interesting too is, I mean, I don't remember tons of the Oscars manicures for this year, but I think we're seeing more fun. Like these fun manicures are becoming more formalized too, right? Like you can have a black tie exclamation point, whereas I think 10 years ago it probably wasn't quite as acceptable, is the wrong word, but as common.
So for the Oscars, for example, normally instead of doing like a ballet slipper or something like that, like you said, like many years ago, for example, this year for the Oscars on Jessica Chastain, I did like a nail that had a black base with like a chrome pewter type glitter over it to give it a really cool kind of metallic depth kind of a look. And that's something that normally we wouldn't have done. So it's nice to see much more visual interest on the red carpet. And I've also seen other celebrities for the Oscars and things like that are doing some nail art as well, which is really fun.
Well, and like it's so cool to see, this manicure, this Jessica Chastain manicure was one of Vogue's best manicures of the Oscar that year. And I'm curious, like, I don't know how many years magazines have been doing like best manicures of event shows, but something tells me that's pretty new, right? I feel like it was, hair and makeup and outfits, and now manicures are getting the same type of billing, which is exciting.
Yeah, we're finally getting the love.
Oh man. And do you have a preferred medium to work in? I want to also talk through all of the options for manicures on the market because, like I said, I'm pretty new to them for my own nails. But do you have a preferred medium to work in. Is that the right way to say it in terms of nails? Medium?
Medium is more like with artwork, like how medium is like, watercolor or acrylic paint or things like that. But I guess it's not wrong. But I feel like when it comes to making the nail, like hard gel, soft gel, acrygel, acrylic, those are still techniques, I guess, or I guess mediums is also proper. But the most common ones are hard gel, soft gel, acrylic, and acrygel. And I don't do dip personally. It's the only thing that I don't do, but dip is also really popular across a lot of the country.
And so let's break these down. So what is hard gel like what most of us think of as a traditional gel manicure?
So a traditional gel manicure is a soft gel because soft gel is acetone permeable. So that's how you can soak it off. That's a soft gel. And then a hard gel is what you use to sculpt a nail or to give it strength or to give it like the apex that gives it the shape in the middle to give it that kind of arch shape. And that can either be soak off or not soak off. It kind of depends. There's hard gels that are in between, but generally hard gels are acetone resistant. So you have to file it off. You just basically put it on and just do retouches until you're ready to take it off. And then a professional, hopefully not yourself, takes it off by just gently filing it off. Or there are some gels that are a semi-hard gel, like CND Plexi Gel, where you file 80% of it off and then you soak the last bit off.
And are these, I know that there have been some new popular treatments or techniques like gel extensions, which I've tried, Japanese gel, which I've tried, that purport to be better for your nails. So are some of these better for like the health of your nails? Or are there things that you should and shouldn't do with these kind of more, I would say like level 2, let's say, types of manicures?
Yeah. Generally speaking, any product that you put on your nail, it can be healthy or unhealthy depending on who puts it on, if they put it on properly, and if you or the person taking it off takes it off properly. You can have this safe enhancement done on your nail, but then if you peel it off, it's still going to cause damage. So the main thing that makes something safe or not is the proper application and removal.
Interesting. So I should not be ripping off any of my fake nails. I also probably shouldn't have said that to you.
I'm coming over.
I'm learning. And are there certain things that people, it's interesting. Like I think like with this, it makes sense to me that the nail health focus and the like cool manicure focus have kind of risen at the same time, because I think if anyone is like me and has damaged their nails accidentally, like that's kind of when you learn, I think, to take care of things. But are there any tips that you have as far as rehabbing nails? Should we be letting them breathe? Like what are your best nail care tips, especially for those of us getting fancy manicures?
The natural nail is made up of 125 to 150 layers. So if you did peel your enhancement off, 1, you'll see those layers, but 2, hopefully it didn't go down too deep. It depends on how that nail was prepped and what kind of product was on it and things like that. But a lot of the time, it's still okay to put an enhancement over it because it's going to protect it as long as the person putting that enhancement on uses caution and doesn't overfile. Of course, there's an exception to every rule, right? But if the product is then burning or things like that, maybe your nail is a little bit too sensitive to have an enhancement on, and then I would stop. Leave those off for a little while, maybe 3 weeks to a month or so. It doesn't have to go all the way out, but that way what is happening is that you're getting new virgin nail growth back at the cuticle, so that way you have at least some virgin nail that's going to allow the new enhancement to adhere better.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, because a lot of people don't realize that when you do peel an enhancement off, and it can be gel polish, hard gel, liquid and powder, aka acrylic or anything, when it does take those layers with it, it does make it harder for the next enhancement to adhere to it. So then when it pops off or peels off, it's just making it worse and worse and worse. So, you know, to go back to what I said, it's kind of like, it's okay if, you know, you had a gel manicure and you peeled it off one time. Sorry, people, don't yell at me. It happens. I've seen it. Usually it only takes a few layers off with it. It's still okay. But like, obviously if you had a whole new set of acrylic and you just pulled the whole thing off and it's like gouges of your nail layer that's gone, then, you know, don't put anything on it. But there are levels of damage that are possible.
And okay, so let's say hypothetically, and this is certainly not something that I have done and am dealing with. Hypothetically, if somebody really destroyed their nails and now want to grow their natural nails back to health, but don't want to leave them, you know, looking tattered. Hypothetically, again, what are the best types of manicures in that situation to get? Like when you're rehabbing your nails and you don't want to leave them totally naked.
One thing that I love for rehabbing your nails is just press-ons. So press-ons now are everywhere, as I'm sure that you have seen online, in store, on Etsy, independent sellers, big sellers. They're all being sold everywhere. So press-ons, you can use the nail adhesive because the nail glue that's inside the package is designed to be used on the natural nail. So you can use those, pop those on, leave those on for a week or so. And if you want to take them off, you just soak in acetone. You don't have to do anything special. And it allows the natural nail underneath to grow and also gives a protection on top. And of course, you have the length and or the design that you want as well. So you're not like walking around with little nubbies.
Do you have any tips for my press-ons always fall off? Do you have any tips for making sure that doesn't happen?
This is a topic that I hear so frequently, and usually it has to do with the fit of the apex. So it's not necessarily the fit like left to right, but it's how the arch fits of the tip, like the curve of the nail basically. So what happens is usually if your nails are more flat than what the curve of the nail tip is, and you're using pressure, if you have to use any pressure to put it down onto the nail, right? Then if you have to use pressure to put it down, naturally, just physics wants it to pop up. So that's why it's not lasting as long. So if that is happening to you, what I recommend is to size up, go up to the next size, and then take a nail file and file the sides down. Because what that's going to happen, every size that you go up, the nail, just by design, is going to be more flat. So that way, if you go up a size and then file the side walls to fit the sides of your nail, then you'll notice that you don't have to press down as far as much, and it'll fit, and then it won't pop off.
Oh my, I'm going to try that tonight. I've never heard that tip before. Wow, I love that. Thanks, Julie.
And another tip, so if you're having trouble with them sticking, take a coarse grit nail file and kind of etch with the end of your nail file inside the well of the tip, and then it gives it a little bit of grip, so it lasts longer as well.
Oh my gosh, I'm going to be the press-on queen after this conversation. Oh God, I'm so excited. Because they make it so easy. And my thing is like, they look so good for 10 minutes and then half of them are gone. But hopefully this will help.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about nails and social media because I think, I can't go on TikTok without seeing all the manicures everywhere. I think that like nail trends have become a thing in such an interesting way. But I guess let's start like high level. What are your thoughts on nails and social media? But how do you think social media has impacted this kind of, I know we talked a lot about the pandemic and kind of how that's played into it, but do you think social media has affected this nail moment we're in as well?
For sure, because anything on the internet, on social media, anything that's colorful, sparkly, interesting, unique is just automatically going to grab someone's attention. Even if they're not into nails, you can't help but look at something that's beautiful or colorful or interesting. So imagine that times 10 when a nail girly is looking at it or a nail boy is looking at it, and then it grows from there. So I think social media has so much to do with kind of what's happening in nails right now.
And do you get people coming in asking, like, are there a lot of trends that people are seeing on social that you're seeing kind of pop up for what people are looking for?
A lot of 3D gel. So I was in Korea in May, and I went straight to the nail stores,
As one
and
does.
and I went and I hung out with some of my nail friends, and we talked a lot about trends. And it's 3D gel, and it is 3D chrome. Like, if you were to take our chrome pigment that we love, right? But also 3D gel and mix them together, so you have this like molten lava kind of a look. So cool. Or like syrup gels, which is a very, very sheer gel color. And in Korea right now, the trend is very sheer, kind of not having that crisp line of polish around the cuticle, but just having very sheer nail base colors with nail art on top of it. And also gems, charms, and what else is cool right now? Just metallic, like lots of metallic metals. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious that Beyonce and the Renaissance concert has given us inspiration for days, and also Taylor Swift and Pink. Like, everyone's touring right now, so those are huge trend-setting events as well.
Okay, this is going to be a dumb question, but when I shouldn't say that. No such thing as a dumb question in the sake of journalism. But when we're working with these really long nails, how do you live your life? Like, that was always my. How do you do anything with long nails? AKA, like, do you have any tips for? Because I want to be a long nail girly so badly. I think they're so pretty, but then, like, I can't put in my contacts. I can't, open my LaCroix, which are hilarious problems to have. But,
Priorities.
Like, I know you have long nails. You see a lot of long nails. Like, are there ways to navigate the world that I can have the best of both?
Of course. So I think that you just need to go gradual.
Okay.
And just start with a little bit, and then you get used to that, and then a little bit more and a little bit more. And that's how these girlies that have these super long nails, I don't think that most of them just one day went super long. I feel like they kind of gradually got there and got used to them as they go. And yes, I have contacts. I have to wear them every day or I'm blind. So I am a long nail contact wearer. And, I don't know. I mean, there are tips, like there are little things that you can buy on Etsy that it's kind of like a little clip that you put like your credit card in if you're paying for gas. And what are some other things? Or like taking a quarter to pop your can of La Croix or whatever.
That's
and
See, there's all these tricks. It's a whole secret world that I'm not yet indoctrinated into.
Come into my world.
Oh man. And Julie, what do you do to your own nails? I can see, let's see them close up. I haven't. Oh, they're so pretty.
So, thank you.
They're like, what would you call that? I mean, obviously our listeners can't see it. It's like squiggly tie. I don't know what to call that. You're the artist. What do you call it?
So this is on my Instagram if you want to either link or people can scroll back. So this is a neon. So what I used first was what we call in the biz blooming gel. So blooming gel goes over the base gel, and then it's like a very thin viscosity gel that when you put the color into it, it kind of like blooms and does this like squiggly thing, which I did with the neon colors here. And then each one is different, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's all that I did. And then I just top coated it. So this is kind of like my summer, end of summer.
And you did those on yourself?
Mm-hmm.
Are you ambidextrous? That is so impressive. That is like my mind is blown.
That's why I do things like this, because it's easy to do ambidextrous. If I were to do something like a line drawing, on the other hand, it would not even happen. It would be a one-handed look and the other one would be solid.
I mean, they're perfect. I feel like my takeaway from this conversation is that there are so many different things you can do, and there are so many ways that you can do them, right? So there are different polish options, there are different enhancement options. How do you choose what you use for each? Does that just come with 20 years of experience, or are there certain kind of techniques that are better for some things than others?
It's a little bit of both. I mean, I have used hard gel for 20 years, liquid and powder, aka acrylic, for 20 years. Gel polish is not as old as those, but I mean 15 years I think gel polish came out. And then Acrogel, some people call it polygel, but that's a branded name that Gelish owns. But Acrogel is kind of a newer one as well to add into that mix, but it just depends. So usually that's when someone comes into my atelier, I don't even book a service. Like, I don't let the client choose. I'm the one that chooses, because I don't want someone to choose a service based on a price or what they hear about in the world. I want to be able to be the one to choose that. And hard gel is harder, and acrylic is even harder than that, but not it's not necessarily for everyone. And acrogel, which is like if hard gel and acrylic had a baby, that has really good adhesion. And so I kind of just use my experience with all these products, and I learn from the manufacturer directly to determine what's best for whomever. And something else that helps me determine is if they're going to be doing nail art or not. Like, some of these products are better, that like not hold nail art better, but like they just work better with a crystal or a top coat or a certain thing, based on if someone just wants a solid color. Like one of my clients, Delina, we just do a structured manicure. She's a makeup artist. We just do like a structured manicure, just like the most beautiful nude ever, and that's it. And we do a structured manicure with a semi-hard gel top coat. She's out the door.
So it sounds like if you don't know what to ask for, let your I mean, probably not all nail techs. Most nail techs are probably not as experienced as you are, but it sounds like you should ask if you don't know what you want. Sorry, the dog just.
Well, I think go for it. It's okay. Love a good dog moment. I think that what's important, and this is a really good topic also, Zoe, is like, if you go to a nail technician that only does one service, they can't help but try to talk you into that service. But if you go to a nail technician that does all of the services, or at least 3 services or more, then they're able to give you a less biased opinion. So I think that, and I know that we have, our favorite people and our favorite salons, and maybe they only offer a gel manicure. But I think that that's a really good takeaway too, is if you're looking for a new nail technician, is to go to someone that does more than one service. Because then they can give you a more well-rounded answer about what really is best for you, versus being a little bit on the more biased side.
I like that advice. And because this is routine rundown, we've talked about your nail routine. Are there tell me about your beauty routine in general. Skincare, makeup, hair care. You're a beauty girl through and through. And nails is the winner.
I'm such a beauty girl. So I'll start with hair, because my hair thing is like crazy, and so many people ask about it. And it's funny because I have a hairstylist in Ohio, I have one here, and I have one in Bali, and one in Miami. So it depends on where I am.
Really can.
So if someone's like, "Oh, Jewel, I love your hair. Who did it?" I said, Rooney in Bali colored it last, and then the time before that, Gabrielle colored it in Miami, but my friend Jeff cut it before that in Ohio. So, it's funny, but I'm loyal as much as I can be, and once you find someone that you love, you gotta stick with them.
Yeah.
And makeup, so my like fun fact is that I have not fallen asleep with makeup on for over 20 years.
Wow. That's impressive.
Yeah. And when you think about it, like through college years, like maybe staying out a little too late or with questionable, it always comes off no matter what. Airplane, overnight flights, it always comes off.
What do you use to take off your makeup?
I just recently heard that micellar water is not very good for your skin. So I would be using Bioderma.
That's what I use. Oh, no.
I know. So I feel like we need to do a little deep dive.
Stay tuned.
But
more to come.
I know. But then I'll finish up with something from Chanel. I can get you the name, but it's in a pump. And I really do like that. I use a lot of things because, probably like you, I'm gifted so many amazing things that I just use everything. I mean, same thing with skincare. Like I'm on like an Augustinus Bader thing right now, and like I have La Mer, like I have Chanel, like
Amazing.
I'm very blessed.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I know it's hard to stick with. I mean, such beauty girl problems, and it is hard to stick with something when you have so many different things to try.
Yeah.
Amazing. And Julie, tell me what you're doing for your nails this fall. That's all. That's my last question of the day.
I love, as much as I love like a neon bright nail for summer in almond, I also change my shape and color for fall. So you might see me with like a short, soft, square, really dark, solid nail, kind of like a Bordeaux, like a Lincoln Park After Dark. I'm really pretty simple like that, or the molten lava nail, like we talked about earlier.
I love that. Amazing. Well, Julie, thank you so much. You've inspired me to try out long nails again, and all the different ways that I can do my life with them and not destroy my nails. Thank you so much for coming on. This was amazing.